Hey, good morning, everyone. Justin Madison. How's it going? Today, it's March 20th, 2025, and we're talking about Zelensky and Ukraine, how they're going to be halting all strikes on energy facilities. So, let's get into it. We're going to say what it is we can do about this, if it's related to us, even. So, first off, Zelensky backs Trump's proposal to halt all airstrikes on energy facilities, and this is regarding Russia. So, fresh off Wednesday morning call with President Trump, Zelensky has said that he backs the U.S. proposal to halt all strikes on energy facilities in the context of the Ukraine war, according to Bloomberg. Still, he has at the same time vowed to win the war. Just hours prior, overnight, Ukraine drones had targeted a Russian oil facility in Krasnodar region, resulting in damage and a large fire at a oil tank. The 1 hour phone call was described as very good by the Trump's Truth Social. And then it goes on, and then Trump makes a statement. Just completed a very good phone call with President Zelensky of Ukraine. It lasted approximately 1 hour. Much of the discussion was based on the call made yesterday with President Putin in order to align Russia and Ukraine in terms of their requests and needs. We are very much on track, and I will ask Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz to give an accurate description of the points discussed. That statement will be put out shortly. There you go. So, what is going on? Like, one day, Zelensky doesn't make a deal, wants to make a deal, doesn't, blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth. What? Okay, so they're in a negotiation process, and it could get a little confusing, but when you are reading these stories, it's very tough because there's this thing called the fog of war. It's this thing that people talk about where it's hard to know what's really going on because there's no media access into the country, and when it comes to this type of stuff, the people who are at play don't want their true intentions revealed. So when you think about this whole situation, you have to look at the whole picture. Why is this even happening to begin with? All right, so there's a couple of actors. You have Russia, Ukraine, but then you have a lot of other countries that are backing these people. What's the point? So it looks like really this is the key, right? If you want to know what the true purpose is, just make it very, very simple. Europe wants Russia's resources. Europe wants Russia's resources. Europe is dependent on Russia. They have pipelines that flow in to Europe, to Germany, to other places, and they also get imports of different commodities from Russia. Now, they have been for years trying to surround Russia and encroach closer and closer and closer. And because of this, they are finally getting pushback from Russia. And maybe a deal's trying to be cut right now between the Trump administration, Putin and Zelensky and all these people. But you have to keep in mind, there's a lot of other people that do not want this deal to go down. All right, so you have to think, the USA, 330 million people. I believe Russia's like 30 something million people. You can fact check me on that. Ukraine's tiny, but then Europe is like 220-ish to 300 million people. It's kind of equivalent to us, and they have a lot of need. So they're going to keep pushing, and you're going to see them they're not going to want these peace negotiations to go through. So you have Zelensky. He has Europe in his ear on one side saying, no, keep going, keep going. And then you have the USA like, hey, cut this off. This is very dangerous. This is very, expensive. We don't want to do this anymore. We want to fix everything. But at the same time, Russia, they're just like, hey, we just want to be, left alone, and we want our territory around us as secure. No NATO memberships, none of this. So I could get a lot more complicated into this, and, I'm going to keep it simple. The point is there's going to be a lot of push for this to keep going. And will this peace talk go through? I don't think it's going to unless Europe starts to get something that it wants, because they're going to keep pushing for the war. Now, what can we do about it? All right. You have to keep a constant kind of just mindset, or a kind of idea in your head that people are not always just going to want peace, right? They're gonna be opting for, getting what they want, and if that means going to war, that means going to war. Everyone has their own interest, every group of people, and just because let's say you're a U.S. citizen, have an interest in something, um, doesn't mean you're gonna get it. So if you're hoping for peace, you're hoping for, you know, like not having to get involved in this anyway, not being affected by it. It's kind of delusional. These things are on purpose, and there's a lot of money. There's even incentive on our behalf. The U.S., we supply a lot of material and weapons to wars. It's one of our big, GDP producers. So here in the U.S., the lobbyists on the war front, they're going to want to, keep this thing going. So even here at home, they're going to push for it, even if it may not make sense. I mean, so what you have to do is you have to constantly prepare yourself for, hard times, and just, conflict of some type that you may have to be involved in. So, what can you do? One, be aware. Two, you need to just general preparedness. Again, always, think things through, like, okay, what if this war causes things to be more scarce? I need to be more, stocked up on things. And then, the final things are, preparedness as far as being able to protect yourself. So, something very important to learn, and this is what I learned when I was in the military. The final stages of any conflict is when there is kinetic, contact. Like, most all of war has to do with logistics. Napoleon used to say, the general, that an army marches on its stomach. The U.S. in the Revolutionary War, one of their biggest challenges was getting supplies. If you can't have food, you don't have water, you don't have all this stuff, right? Then you're not going to be able to defend yourself. So you have to think a lot more about all the tools and equipment and resources you need, by far more than your ability to actually, go to war and perform the actual task during it. So if you can do anything, think logistically. This is, I can't stress how important this is. This is like, they used to say when I was in the Army, rookies think tactics, professionals think logistics. And if you can organize, just logistics, you're far better off. So some of you younger and all this stuff, how do you practice logistics? Well, this is probably one of the most easy things that you can learn, right? Life is full of logistics. If you can learn how to just do blue collar types of work, right? If you can learn to be a farmer, if you can learn to be a contractor, if you can be some type of transport guy, or you can just learn how to be a mechanic, these type of things. These are super valuable. The military, if you look at its demographics, it's like the minority. We're talking 2%, 10%, maybe at the most 20% of people in the military have anything to do with combat. Most of a military in any country is the logistic personnel, like mechanics, doctors, combat medics, nurses. I mean, people who just do intel, tons of them. So if you can learn how to operate and survive in the real world independently, that is huge. I'm a contractor. I started when I was very young. I didn't realize how important that part of the puzzle was. So really, you have to be essentially a prepper, right, when it comes to these type of things. And that'll shift your mindset to what is the really powerful stuff. And being someone who is prepared and capable is extremely important. One last thing, when it comes to this type of stuff, like in the military, they had a saying, it was called hurry up and wait. Most all the time, you're either going to be in a state of extreme boredom or in a state of extreme chaos. And it's long periods of boredom where you're just preparing. That's all you're doing. You're loading up equipment, you're maintaining equipment, and you're just building positions. So try and think of it different. Don't get excited about CQB and all of this other tactic stuff. Yes, it's important. It's very important, but it's like one small part of the puzzle. You agree, disagree? Let me know. Or you want to learn more? Make a comment. Watch more videos. Tell me you want more info on this stuff. So I appreciate you guys. And thanks. Have a good day.